it all comes down to rock and roll for me, for a lot of us. Yeah, we like jazz. Maybe we've merged into other artists, other genres like country, soul, hip hop, whatever. Starts with rock and roll for me. Beatles, but let's go back. I'm picking about 10, which means it could be 11 or 12. Rock and roll CD box sets, or not box sets, CD smaller sets, except for a couple of exceptions here. I did this whole 20-year blackout video on compact discs where I fell into the 20-year vortex of digital. And I just got this collection. It's a CD collection from the UK on Sleazy Records. Sounds like it's gray market, but it's actually a really great record. It's Ricky Nelson in the studio in the 50s. Now, I've just been playing the first one, the Verve sessions, and basically there's 13 versions of I'm Walking, 5 versions of You're My Only One, and then Teenage Romance, another 10 versions. So if you're not into that multi thing, but then it has a lovely little book and the Imperial Outtakes and New Stereo Masters from 1958, 1959. Now, if anyone says Ricky Nelson doesn't count or isn't serious, you're wrong. An important part of the rock and roll thing, I enjoy his stuff more than I enjoy Elvis Presley. Sorry. Because he was the teen idol and he did that song, Teen Idol, with Ozzy and Harriet show. But, Ricky Nelson is the bomb. And while I show that, there is one more. This was a series that came out on Capitol years ago, Ricky Nelson Legacy series, that has 4 discs of the early years and then all the way up through the long-haired garden party years till 85, and then his unfortunate early demise in the Piper Cub or small airplane. But Ricky Nelson, fabulous, fabulous. I have 2 artists here who grew out of the Sun sessions. You could really get into the, the $1 Million Quartet. But Johnny Cash, I Walk the Line, Sun Records, Walking the Line, the legendary Sun recordings from Sun Studio, the Sam Phillips recordings. Great stuff. Johnny Cash, before he became the country artist we all know, part of that infamous $1 Million Quartet with Elvis Presley. And so these are the complete 50 masters. Now, the thing with Elvis, there are so many friggin' comps and collections and single disc and multi-disc. If I was keeping up with Elvis Presley like I keep up with the Beatles, I'd be broke. I'm almost broke because of the Beatles, but this is a cool one because I really prefer his 50s stuff. I do like his 60s as well. So this is a cool collection of the complete masters. And this is, again, one area, and it's a big area, that compact discs excel over vinyl in most cases. And then here's another one, Life in Music, the Platinum Elvis Presley, which basically has 4 discs of his hits, with including some alternative and outtakes. But there's people on this channel, including the King something, that does all Elvis all the time, and other people that'll know. But these are really important to me. I did throw in one 60s artist just because it had this feel. I want the feel of basic rock and roll, not prog, not overproduced, not Sgt. Pepper, not when rock and roll kind of morphed into all these different subgenres. And you can't talk about that without talking about Chuck Berry. These 2 chess collections are just fabulous. They're each like with 4 CDs, the complete 50s chess recordings and the complete 1960 to 1966 chess recordings. 4 discs each. Obviously, you can't talk about rock and roll without talking about Chuck Berry. So, throwing in Chuck Berry in the mix. One who's not as famous but is important just the same. Again, you are going to tell me people that I forgot. Do your own 10 rock and rolls. I think there was a thread like this a year ago I did on vinyl, and other people contributed to. Actually, I didn't start it, but I did my version of it. Very best of Duane Eddy. Great guitar player, rock and roll player, Duane Eddy. I mean, you can get Del Shannon and so many other people too. Now, rock and roll, in terms of the greatest harmonies in the world. To me, one of the most important acts of the late 50s into the 60s are, of course, are the Everly Brothers, Don and Phil. This is a great Rhino collection, 4 discs. It goes all the way up to the late 80s. And to me, obviously some of the most important artists ever. We wouldn't have the harmonies of the Beatles possibly if we didn't have the Everly Brothers. So great, great, great songs. Wake Up Little Susie, All I Have to Do Is Dream, Bird Dog, Devoted to You, Kentucky, Poor Jenny. Oh my God, Kathy's Clown. I know, I've been Kathy's Clown, so I know that stuff. Of course, Bo Diddley, the inventor of a riff. How many artists really made it on one riff and did it like hundreds of times? You know that Bo Diddley riff? Chunk, 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 chunk. I don't even know it's chunk, but you know what I'm talking about. The Bo Diddley riff, oh my God. What an invention, and what a great, great artist. This is just a double disc, and this is the Chess Masters 1955 to 1958. Chess put out a lot of these great, great series of things. I mean, also, I didn't include, you could really get into the sort of bluesy, blues artist influence on Chess, like Muddy Waters and that, but this is more just rock and roll. Of course, the voice of rock and roll had to be Roy Orbison. This is a Sony Monument Collection Legacy, Roy Orbison Records, Only the Lonely, In Dreams, an amazing, amazing artist, the soul of rock and roll, Roy Orbison. Had a great comeback, you know, with the Traveling Wilburys, you know, in the late 80s. Again, died way too young in my opinion, but some of the greatest rock and roll, you know, of all times, and the voice, possibly the greatest voice in rock and roll. And then, of course, the other rock and roll genius who lived such a short life is Buddy Holly. This is a great collection. This is 6 CDs that has dub versions, non-dub versions, original masters, a few outtakes, some rehearsal takes, some edited tapes, a gorgeous package, a gorgeous book. Roy Orbison, Buddy Holly, not Fade Away. Of course, another favorite of Lennon and McCartney and the rest of the Beatles. So, Buddy Holly, so important, so important. The one 60s group, and of course there are a lot of 60s groups. The Beatles did rock and roll, the Stones did bluesy rock and roll, the Kinks did it, but for some reason it comes down to this band, them, Van Morrison and them, because of the song Gloria. Gloria to me was, to a certain generation, my generation, the first rock and roll song that really mattered and every band could do. There were 2 rock and roll songs all us garage bands would do, Gloria and Louie Louie. But Gloria, just that, you know, E-D-A, you know, just an amazing, amazing song. Van Morrison on then, this is a 3-disc comp that has 64, 65, 66, 67. So maybe in the grand scheme of things, if you really want to, you know, get in the nitty gritty, they don't probably belong in this, you know, because they're a little more bluesy based, but the singing of Van Morrison and the story of them, to me, is really popular. And I'm going to end up with one of my favorite box sets of all times, 18 CDs on Mosaic. You don't think of this artist when you think of rock and roll, but when I think of the Roots, Get Your Kicks on Route 66, Straighten Up and Fly Right, that's the Nat King Cole trio. To me, the roots of rock and roll are all here, even though it's sort of paralleled with what was going on with rock and roll, but the stripped down trio alone, before all the schmaltzy strings and everything, to me, makes it the essence of what rock and roll is. R&B, you know, we wouldn't have rock and roll if we didn't have R&B, rhythm and blues. So I'm throwing him to end up. Mosaic is really a limited edition jazz label. These were 18 CDs. There was a very limited vinyl version, which goes for about $1,000 now. But this is, to me, one of my favorite sets. So 10, 11, 12, whatever, rock and roll, the core of rock and roll on compact discs. Watch that 20-year vortex where I lost my mind and I got out of vinyl and got sucked into the digital realm and the digital gramophone of bits and pieces. Bits and pieces. Dave Clark 5. Mazzy loves you. Is that what they're talking about?